This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, August 2nd show. I'm empowering our community to provide you with opportunities and solutions when it comes to your money. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you're listening to a rebroadcast, but I can assist and answer any questions that you have. Just pick up the phone, give my show a call at 1-855-400-1150. Again, it's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And I can definitely connect you with any guest I have in studio as well. And in studio right now, Jeff Prescott with RE/MAX Metro Realty. In today's market, a lot of sellers have false sense of process of getting top dollar for their homes. Regardless of a seller or a buyer's market strategy is critical to get top dollar. And if you don't want to leave money on the table, you won't want to miss out on the discussion that I may have with Jeff. Jeff, thank you so much for coming back in studio.
It's nice to be back.
And it's been a little while since I've had a chat with you on
It
mic.
has been a while.
Yeah, and you had come over to the east side from Seattle.
I did.
Thanks for crossing that bridge.
It was certainly worth every bit of it.
Yeah, awesome. A little bit about Jeff. Jeff moved here from Portland to Seattle in 1986. He arrived without a job, and a friend suggested getting a real estate license. And he did. A year later, in 1987, he earned Rookie of the Year. Now with RE/MAX Metro, Jeff has over 25 years experience. He has worked through many economic cycles in his career and committed to making our housing stock increasingly efficiently and with energy use and repurposing existing materials for new uses. Jeff regularly provides consultations for clients on ways to update their home, take advantage of new technologies, and maximize their return on investment. So it's going to be great to have a conversation around sellers. And as I always say, when we specifically talk about sellers, because sometimes we're talking about sellers, sometimes we're talking about buyers. Today we're going to talk about everything. But right now, for the buyers out there, it's important to hear the advice that you're giving sellers, because in preparing and putting together an offer, it's nice to know what the other side of the table is thinking to strategize as well. So you buyers out there, definitely stay tuned in. So Jeff, let's go ahead and start out with your clients' needs and wants today.
I'm getting, most of my buyers tend to fall into two categories. One tends to be someone who's looking for a project to do their own. They've heard of me and giving those kinds of things. Or others that want a turnkey, we say. Move in ready, all ready to move. And I'm seeing a lot of those types of homes really need to be in pretty perfect condition to get multiple offers. I've had several instances recently of buyers being involved in multiple offers, and you can walk into a house and kind of get an idea of which ones might generate, and the ones without the red wall, accent wall from the 90s, probably not. So
what other suggestions do you have for the seller on that, to making their home ready so that they're not getting the buyers coming in and going, okay, now this isn't the one?
Right now, I'm working with someone at the end of a 6-week process we've been going through to get their house ready for market. Decluttering, getting rid of the personal items, finding those rooms that need some help, and getting rid of the dogs.
Okay.
And in this case, a short time ago, they did their a lovely kitchen and main powder room remodel, but the master bath wasn't up to par with the rest of the house.
Okay.
So that was the significant project they had to do besides painting a very lime green bedroom.
Yeah. And I think sometimes as a seller, especially in this market, it can be a little deceiving because everybody knows we're short inventory. We have a lot of buyers, so the demand is high. There's just not enough out there, which means ultimately, if you think about it from a seller's point, it's like, why do I have to do anything? Because there's so many buyers out here. And which is true. Your house is most likely going to sell if if you've got it on the market, it's going to sell at some point in time. But the question is how long is it going to take, and how much less are you going to get for not doing these improvements? So in this example...
And it's bringing in the competition of people interested. If your house is turnkey, you're going to get more of that small pie of buyer, so to speak, interested into your home.
And that's the idea, is to get the demand going on your own personal house. So what are some things, Jeff, that a seller might be able to do themselves without having a lot of cost associated?
Well, in the example I'm using right now of this client I'm working with presently, he's doing all of it on his own. Mm-hmm. The entire house is getting painted. The entire interior of the house is getting painted. He's replacing 2 rooms of carpets. He is doing his own bathroom. He did hire a contractor for the countertops, but he's painting, he's laying a tile floor, and it's looking beautiful. A lot of this stuff is not that hard for a homeowner to do with just reasonable amount of ability. As long as you know the right side of a screwdriver, chances are you can do much of this stuff.
Sure. So you're going in, and let's say that you've got a seller that's listening today and is trying to determine what they need to do for their home. Are you going in that initial consultation, Jeff, and looking at the house and making suggestions of what they need to do, maybe estimating what the cost would and letting them know how much more that might return them in a price?
I have a good idea of the basic costs of many of the basic items out there. Mm-hmm. But I'm also looking at the client themselves. Do they have the ability? I worked with someone who was elderly and more infirm than others.
Sure.
So clearly that person's going to need to have someone come in to do things. Mm-hmm. And that cost has to be factored in as well.
Of course.
When you can do it yourself, that's a huge savings versus someone else. So there's a lot of factors that have to go into making the appropriate advice to the client.
So it's really just going in there and consulting and let them know what they need to do. And then for a seller to be open and listen to what your advice is, because you've been selling real estate for a long time.
I find it's a lot easier often, if they're willing, is let's go look at the house down the block that is for sale.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to be competing against. And this is what the comparison's going to be.
And that's great. I don't know if I was selling my home, I would like to think that, yeah, definitely just walking in and going to their open houses of anything that's on the market near your house would be an amazing thing. Because I think once you get there and you look around, then you can go, okay, I understand why that these are things that I need to do.
And the blinders tend to fall off that my house is the perfect one when you can see a house that's been staged, for example.
Sure.
Then the clutter in your own home starts to, personal items in your own home start to become much more apparent.
Yeah, and go back as a seller, go back to when you were looking at buying a home. You really want to go into the house and imagine that you would be living there. So I think when you can walk into other people's home and think of how can you imagine living here with all these personal items, then it starts to make sense. So really just taking that hat and switching it so that you're understanding where the buyers are coming from. And what about focus? Where do you want to focus the attention on the inside of the house? What are the most important things to put focus on?
My buyers tend to look at kitchens. That's the first thing that we start commenting on. It's general repair, how are the cabinets, appliances, etc. We look at the living rooms as well, general upkeep. Master bathrooms are a big deal, and bathrooms in general. It's kind of target first, and then exterior, making sure it's appealing from the street.
Of course, that first impression.
Yes, the front door.
So, Jeff, on the horizon, I know you do a lot of things green, and reading out your bio and knowing the clients you work with, because I've worked with you on many clients, and you've taken care of many of my clients that I've sent your way. And so what's coming up on the horizon?
Energy efficiencies are still something that I personally try to educate people on. And some people need more education than others. And ultimately, it's their decision, of course. But I do think that is going to be an impact that's going to be greater as time passes. So that's a common one that I provide. Tankless water tanks is one of my big ones right off. They're easy, generally easy. And I'm a big one to quit heating water 24/7.
Makes total sense. Anything else that you advise when it comes to energy efficient?
I believe we're going to be that increasingly we're going to have water runoff on property. I think it's going to be starting with our commercial, but I believe eventually the homeowners are going to be asked to keep water runoff on site if we're going to keep the sound healthy. And there's a lot of ways to do some of that where to gather the rain runoff of our moderate storms and lessen that. And I'm seeing that even incorporated in some new construction that's going out there. There's some pretty cool places and builders out there that are doing really great stuff about keeping starting to address that issue now.
Okay. So, Jeff, what is the best advice that you have for a listener, a seller that's listening right now of a mistake that you're seeing that's being made that they're not getting top dollar?
I think still it's the personal stuff that is left inside. Okay. When I bring a client in and there's comments being made about the trip photos on the wall, that's telling me we're not looking at the house now. We are being distracted by something else.
Okay.
And that's what I really, and these clients I'm working with now did an excellent job of stripping all that wonderful travel memorabilia.
Sure.
Get it boxed up and ready for your next house.
Yes. Want the buyer again to come in and imagine it's their home. 60 seconds. We got to go to break, Jeff, but one quick advice for a buyer that's sitting out there listening to us talk right now. What do they need to do to win in this market?
They need to look at what kind of contingencies they're going to be asking for in their purchase offer.
Okay.
I'm getting buyers who are making some very aggressive offers out there, up to and including waiving financing, which makes me very, very nervous.
Yes.
And but waiving their inspections. That makes me nervous as well.
Yep. So biggest advice, understand what your options are,
Yes.
Understand your contingencies, know in this market if you want to be competitive with another offer, you may have to waive them, but make sure you understand what you're doing, understand the risk behind that. And that's great advice, Jeff.
Or pay for the inspection up front.
Or pre-inspection. We've talked about that before in studio. And yes, it's a really good way. Never enough time to go over all the information that I like to, especially just talking with Jeff here for just a few minutes. But if you want to talk with him directly, pick up the phone, give my show a call, 1-855-400-1150. Again, it's 1-855-400-1150. Or you can go online at themoneyhour.com and listen to any Jeff's segments that he's had, many here in studio. Jeff, thank you for coming back in. I really appreciate it.
I always appreciate being here as well. Thank you.
Coming up next in the Money Hour, follow up on the predictions on our local real estate market that she made during her last appearance on my show, and a little update on what's happening in our real estate market here in our area. Leslie Hancock with Windermere Real Estate East, right here on 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.